November 3rd, 1944. Hürtgen Forest, Germany. 11:42 p.m. The fog moves like smoke between the trees. Cold. Heavy. Alive. Private Leon Carter can barely see the man walking 5 feet ahead of him. Only the faint outline of a helmet. A shadow carrying a rifle. That's all. The forest has swallowed everything else. No moonlight. No landmarks. No horizon. Just darkness and the sound of boots pressing into wet earth. Nearly 300 American soldiers move quietly through the trees in broken columns, advancing deeper into enemy territory. No one speaks louder than a whisper, because somewhere ahead, German lines are waiting. You can almost feel it. That strange tension where silence itself becomes dangerous. Captain Robert Hale checks his compass again beneath a dim flashlight covered carefully by his hand. West should be behind them. The objective ahead. At least according to the map. But maps don't account for forests like this. The Hürtgen swallows direction. Paths disappear. Distances feel wrong. Even sound behaves strangely here. Artillery rumbles somewhere far away, but the fog distorts it, making explosions feel both distant and close at the same time. The column keeps moving. Step. 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 The operation depends on timing. Advance quietly. Reach the designated position before dawn. Hold until reinforcement arrives. Simple on paper. But the deeper they move into the forest, the less simple everything feels. A radio operator adjusts his headset. Static. Again. Still static. Signals weak, he whispers. Captain Hale nods but keeps walking. Communication problems are expected in dense terrain. At least that's what everyone tells themselves. Then the fog thickens further. So thick now that trees appear suddenly out of nowhere. Men begin drifting closer together instinctively. Not tactical. Human. Because isolation in darkness feels wrong. A soldier behind Carter mutters quietly. I can't see anything. No one answers. Because everyone feels the same thing. The column slows slightly. Not officially. Naturally. Carefulness replacing speed. Then suddenly booed. A sharp cracking sound echoes through the forest. Everyone freezes instantly. Rifles rise. Breathing stops. Silence follows. No gunfire. No movement. Just the fog again. A branch. Probably. But no one fully believes it. Captain Hale checks the line. Still intact. Still moving. So the order comes quietly. Keep going. And they do. Deeper. Further into darkness. The forest floor becomes rougher now. Mud. Roots. Shallow craters hidden beneath fallen leaves. Men stumble occasionally. Whisper apologies. Keep moving. Then the first real problem appears. The radio operator stops again. No contact with second platoon. Hale turns immediately. What do you mean no contact? Nothing, sir. They stopped responding 5 minutes ago. 5 minutes. That's enough time to disappear in terrain like this. Hale looks back into the darkness behind them. Nothing visible. No lights. No movement. Just fog. You can almost feel the first real wave of uncertainty moving through the column. Not fear yet. Something quieter. Confusion. A runner is sent back to locate the missing platoon. He disappears into the fog within seconds. Then even his footsteps vanish. The column waits. 1 minute. 2. 5. Nothing returns. No runner. No platoon. No sound at all. The forest feels larger now. As if the darkness itself is widening around them. Captain Hale studies the map again. Compass again. Everything says they are still on course. But something is wrong. Very wrong. Then another report arrives from farther ahead. Sir, First squad can't find third squad anymore. Hale turns sharply. What? They were right behind us. Then they just... The soldier hesitates. Because he doesn't know how to finish the sentence. They didn't retreat. Didn't report contact. Didn't call out. They simply disappeared into the fog. Now the realization begins spreading through the operation. Units are separating without noticing. Entire groups drifting apart silently inside the darkness. And the terrifying part is, no one knows how many are already gone. November 4th, 1944. Hürtgen Forest, 12:26 a.m. The fog grows thicker after midnight. Not naturally, aggressively. It rolls between the trees in slow waves, swallowing shapes and distances until the forest no longer feels real. Private Leon Carter keeps his left hand stretched slightly outward as he walks. Not for balance, to make sure someone is still beside him, because visibility has collapsed completely now. 10 feet ahead might as well be another world. The column continues moving, but it no longer feels like a coordinated operation. It feels fragmented, broken into isolated pockets drifting through darkness. Captain Robert Hale stops again near a narrow ridge covered in wet leaves. Count your men. The order moves quietly through the line. One squad leader turns. Counts silhouettes. Stops. Counts again. Then looks up slowly. We're missing 2. Another voice nearby, dear. 3 missing here. Then another. Sir, we lost visual on 2nd platoon completely. The reports begin stacking together like pieces of something terrifying. Not one disappearance. Not isolated confusion. Dozens. Entire groups gone. Without gunfire. Without warning. Without anyone fully noticing when it happened. You can almost feel the fear beginning to change shape. At first, it was fear of the enemy. Now, it's fear of the forest itself. A radio operator kneels beside a tree, desperately adjusting frequencies. Static fills the headset. No command response. No platoon response. Nothing. The forest absorbs communication as easily as it absorbs men. Hale makes a decision quickly. No one moves alone. Stay close. Stay visible. But visible means almost nothing now. The fog has reduced every soldier to little more than a shadow. Carter hears movement somewhere off to the right. Boots. Branches shifting. Friendly. Enemy. Impossible to tell. He raises his rifle instinctively, then lowers it again, because firing blindly would trigger chaos instantly. The column begins moving again, slower now. Carefully, every step measured. But the slower they move, the more the forest seems to separate them anyway. One moment a silhouette exists beside you. The next moment it doesn't. Gone without sound. Gone without explanation. Some soldiers begin whispering names into the darkness. Quietly. Hoping for answers. Most receive none. Then suddenly, a burst of machine gun fire erupts somewhere far behind them. Sharp. Violent. Brief. Everyone freezes. The firing stops almost immediately. Then silence returns. No screams. No follow-up shots. Nothing. Captain Hale looks back into the darkness. What unit was that? No one knows. Because the forest has destroyed all sense of position now. Sound echoes strangely between the trees, bouncing unpredictably through the fog. Gunfire could be 50 yards away, or 500. Another soldier stumbles forward through the mist unexpectedly. Alone. Panicked. I lost my squad. His breathing is ragged. Eyes wide. They were right behind me, and then they just... He stops. Because even he doesn't fully understand what happened. No attack. No explosion. Just separation. The operation is dissolving silently. Hale realizes it now. The mission itself may already be failing. Not because of enemy force. Because the forest is dismantling them faster than the enemy ever could. A decision is made to halt temporarily and regroup. Squads gather near a shallow depression between trees. Roll calls begin again. The numbers are worse this time. Far worse. Entire sections missing. Dozens unaccounted for. And still no clear indication where they went. Carter watches the faces around him carefully. No one says it directly. But everyone is thinking the same thing now. How do hundreds of soldiers disappear without a battle? The question hangs heavily over the regrouped men. Then another terrifying realization emerges. Some missing groups may no longer even know where friendly lines are. Lost soldiers moving blindly through enemy territory, potentially walking deeper into German positions without realizing it. And if that's true, then every minute matters. Search patrols are organized immediately. Small teams sent carefully into the darkness to locate the missing men. One patrol disappears into the fog heading north, another west. Within seconds, both vanish from sight completely. The remaining soldiers wait quietly, listening. For voices. Footsteps. Anything. Nothing returns. Minutes pass. Then more. No patrols come back. No radio contact resumes. And slowly, the horrifying possibility begins spreading through the operation. The forest isn't just separating units anymore. It's consuming them, one by one. And somewhere deeper inside the Hürtgen, hundreds of lost soldiers are still moving through the darkness completely unaware that almost everyone else has disappeared too. November 4th, 1944. Hürtgen Forest. The forest no longer feels like part of the war. It feels separate from it. A world of darkness, fog, and broken direction where units dissolve silently between the trees. Private Leon Carter moves beside what remains of his squad, boots sliding carefully across wet leaves and frozen mud. No one talks now. Because every voice sounds dangerous. And because speaking reminds them how few are left. What started as hundreds of soldiers advancing together has become scattered fragments wandering through enemy territory. Captain Robert Hale checks the latest count again beneath a covered flashlight. The numbers don't make sense. Not anymore. Nearly half the operation is unaccounted for. No confirmed enemy engagement. No organized retreat. Just absence. You can almost feel the psychological weight settling over the remaining men. The terrifying realization that the battlefield itself has become unknowable. Then, movement ahead. Everyone drops instantly, rifles raised. Shapes emerge through the fog slowly. 3 soldiers. But something feels wrong immediately. They're walking aimlessly. No formation. No direction. One of them looks barely aware of where he is. Carter recognizes him from 2nd Platoon. Or what used to be 2nd Platoon. Where's the rest of your unit? Captain Hale asks quickly. The soldier blinks through exhaustion. We lost them. How? The answer comes after a long pause. I don't know. And somehow, that answer is worse, because no one knows anymore. The surviving soldiers are beginning to understand something horrifying about the Hürtgen forest. You don't notice when separation begins. It happens gradually, quietly. One wrong turn, one delayed step, one patch of fog too thick to see through. And suddenly you're alone. The regrouped men continue moving cautiously westward, trying desperately to reconnect with friendly lines before dawn. But the deeper they move, the more enemy activity appears around them. German voices echo faintly nearby. Engines rumble somewhere beyond the trees. At one point, Carter spots cigarette embers glowing through the darkness only yards away. Enemy soldiers resting beside a hidden machine gun nest. So close he can hear them talking quietly. The Americans freeze completely, not breathing, not moving, The patrol passes without noticing them. Barely. And that's when Hale realizes the full danger. The missing soldiers aren't just lost. Some are likely wandering directly between German positions, trapped inside shifting enemy lines with no idea where safety actually is. A sudden crack of rifle fire explodes somewhere east of them. Single shots. Desperate. Then automatic gunfire erupts immediately afterward. Short. Violent. Then silence again. The surviving men exchange looks. No one says it aloud. But everyone understands what probably just happened. Another lost group found the enemy first. The forest feels even darker after that. More hostile. As if every direction now leads toward danger. A radio operator suddenly raises his hand sharply. Wait. Static crackles weakly through his headset. Then, a voice. Broken. Distorted. Help. Surrounded. The signal cuts violently. Everyone stares at the operator. Can you locate it? Hale asks immediately. The operator shakes his head slowly. Too weak. Too distorted. But one thing is clear. Some of the missing soldiers are still alive. Somewhere inside the forest. And they are completely trapped. The realization changes everything. This is no longer just confusion. It's survival. Search patrols become rescue attempts now. Despite the danger, Hale organizes another small team to move toward the approximate signal location. 5 volunteers step forward silently. No hesitation. Because everyone knows the alternative. Leave them behind. The patrol disappears into the fog, carrying a dim lantern covered carefully beneath cloth. Within moments, they vanish completely too. Carter watches the darkness where they disappeared. And for the first time since entering the forest, he feels something worse than fear. Hopelessness. Because the Hürtgen is not fighting them openly. It's erasing them slowly, piece by piece. And somewhere deeper inside the forest, dozens of isolated soldiers are still wandering blindly through enemy-controlled terrain, while officers struggle to answer one impossible question. How do you rescue men when no one knows where they vanished? November 4th, 1944. Hürtgen Forest. The forest feels colder now. Not because the temperature dropped, because fewer voices remain. Captain Robert Hale studies the map beneath a dim red flashlight, but the paper no longer means much. Roads disappear in the fog. Landmarks blur together. Even the compass needle seems uncertain at times, twitching slightly as if the forest itself is interfering. Around him, exhausted soldiers regroup silently between the trees. The latest count confirms the nightmare. Nearly 300 men are missing. Not dead. Not confirmed captured. Missing. The number spreads quietly through the remaining troops. And with it, a different kind of fear begins to grow, because battlefield casualties make sense. This doesn't. You can almost feel the psychological pressure tightening around everyone still standing. Men glance into the fog constantly now, as if expecting entire squads to emerge from it at any moment. But most of the time, nothing appears. Then suddenly, movement. A figure stumbles through the darkness toward the regrouped Americans. Alone. The soldiers immediately raise rifles. Password. No response at first. The figure collapses into the mud before reaching them fully. American uniform. Covered in dirt. Face pale with shock. A medic kneels beside him quickly. What happened? The soldier struggles to breathe evenly. We got separated. Fog everywhere. His hands shake violently now. They started disappearing one by one. Enemy contact. Hale asks. The soldier stares blankly for a second. I don't know. Again. That same answer. No one knows exactly when separation becomes disappearance inside the Hürtgen. That's what makes it terrifying. The rescued soldier explains between breaths. His squad followed what they thought were friendly voices through the fog. But the voices weren't American. By the time they realized the mistake, German patrols were already moving around them. The squad scattered immediately. Some ran north, some deeper into the forest. Then visibility vanished completely again. After that, he never saw anyone else. The account confirms Hale's worst fear. The missing soldiers aren't gathered together somewhere. They're fragmented across miles of enemy-controlled forest. Small, isolated groups. Single soldiers, lost between shifting German positions. And dawn is getting closer, which makes everything worse. Because daylight means visibility. Visibility means movement becomes dangerous. And isolated soldiers hiding alone in enemy territory rarely survive long after sunrise. Hale organizes larger search teams despite the risks. Not because it's safe. Because there's no choice left. If they wait until daylight, many of the missing men may never come back. Search patrols move outward carefully through the fog, carrying faint shielded lights. Their instructions are simple. Find survivors. Avoid engagement. Mark locations. Return quickly. Simple instructions inside an impossible environment. Private Leon Carter joins one of the patrols heading north toward the last week radio transmission. The deeper they move, the stranger the forest becomes. The fog now hangs so thick it reflects flashlight beams backward. Every tree looks identical. Every direction feels wrong. At one point, Carter hears footsteps somewhere ahead. The patrol stops immediately. Rifles raised. A silhouette emerges slowly between the trees. Then another. American soldiers. 5 of them. Alive, but barely holding together. One is wounded. Another has lost his helmet. Their squad leader looks completely exhausted. "We thought everyone else was gone," he says quietly. The patrol quickly pulls them into formation. For the first time all night, hope appears. Not strong, but real. Because if some survived, others still might too. Then gunfire suddenly erupts nearby. Close. Far too close. German voices shout through the fog immediately afterward. The patrol drops instantly into defensive positions. Carter presses against a frozen tree trunk, heart pounding violently. Machine gun fire tears blindly through the darkness. No clear targets. Just sound. Movement. Fear. The Germans are firing toward noise now. Toward movement. And in fog this thick, movement is everywhere. The patrol returns fire briefly before Hale's earlier orders echo in Carter's mind. Avoid engagement. Because prolonged combat here would destroy them completely. The patrol begins withdrawing carefully through the trees, pulling the rescued soldiers with them. But as they retreat, Carter notices something terrifying. Shapes moving through the fog behind the Germans too. More lost Americans. Completely unaware they're walking directly into enemy fire. He tries shouting a warning, "Weimars." But another burst of machine gun fire cuts through the forest instantly. And suddenly the fog erupts into chaos again. Men scattering, voices screaming, shapes vanishing between trees. And once more, a Hürtgen begins swallowing soldiers whole. November 4th, 1944. Hürtgen Forest. Dawn never fully arrives. Not properly. The fog remains too thick. Too heavy. It turns the early morning light into a dull grey haze, hanging between the trees like smoke after an explosion. Private Leon Carter runs blindly through the forest, boots crashing through wet leaves and mud as gunfire echoes behind him. Shouts erupt somewhere to his left. German. American. Impossible to separate anymore, because the Hürtgen has destroyed every clear line. The patrol scatters instinctively after the ambush, small groups breaking apart between the trees. Exactly what everyone feared. Carter ducks behind a fallen log as bullets snap through branches overhead. His breathing is ragged now. Fast. Not from panic. From exhaustion finally catching up. Hours of tension. Hours of confusion. Hours spent moving through terrain that feels alive. You can almost feel it. That overwhelming sensation that the forest itself is pushing men apart. Carter looks around desperately. No Captain Hale. No patrol. Alone again. The realization lands hard, because now he understands how the others vanished. Not all at once. Not in one battle. Separately. Silently. One wrong direction at the wrong moment, and the fog closes behind you like a wall. Movement appears nearby. Carter raises his rifle instantly, then freezes. American soldiers. 3 of them. One wounded badly in the shoulder. Another barely able to stand from exhaustion. They stare at Carter with the same expression he feels himself. Relief mixed with disbelief. How many left? One asks quietly. Carter doesn't answer immediately, because he honestly doesn't know anymore. The surviving soldiers regroup loosely and continue moving west through the fog, trying desperately to avoid enemy patrols while finding friendly lines before daylight fully exposes them. But the forest keeps confusing everything. Voices echo in wrong directions. Footsteps sound closer than they are. At one point they follow what sounds like American commands through the trees, only to stop seconds before walking directly into a hidden German machine gun position. The enemy soldiers themselves seem nervous now, because the fog affects everyone equally. Even they no longer know exactly who is moving around them. Hours pass. The survivors encounter more scattered Americans. Single soldiers. Pairs. Small broken groups. All carrying the same story. Lost contact. Lost direction. Lost everyone else. And slowly, the truth becomes clear. The missing 300 were never truly together after the separation began. The operation fractured into dozens of isolated groups, wandering independently through enemy-controlled forest. Some accidentally crossed German lines. Some hid until dawn. Some spent hours circling the same terrain without realizing it. And some never found their way out at all. By late morning, surviving fragments of the operation finally begin reaching American positions west of the forest. Exhausted soldiers emerge from the fog looking like ghosts. Mud-covered. Sleep-deprived. Eyes hollow from stress. Officers immediately begin counting survivors, trying desperately to reconstruct what happened during the night. The numbers improve slowly. Small groups continue arriving throughout the day, then more the next morning. But not everyone returns. Some names remain unanswered permanently. Captain Robert Hale stands beside a temporary command post listening to survivor accounts one after another. No 2 stories are identical, but all share the same core truth. The fog destroyed coordination. The forest destroyed orientation. And once units separated, the battlefield itself became impossible to understand. One officer quietly summarizes it best. It was like the forest swallowed them. And honestly, that's exactly what it felt like. The official reports later describe confusion, terrain failure, communication collapse, and severe visibility conditions. Accurate words, but cold ones, because reports cannot fully explain what the Hürtgen felt like that night. The isolation, the silence, the terrifying moment when soldiers realized entire units had vanished around them without a sound. For the survivors, the memory never fully faded, not because of one battle, but because of uncertainty. Because even years later, many still wondered exactly how so many men disappeared so quickly into darkness and fog. And somewhere deep inside the Hürtgen forest, the trees remained silent, as if they intended to keep the rest of the story forever.